Good afternoon, students. Today we will discuss about this embryology model which is showing development of pharyngeal clefts and pouches. As you see, these are the pharyngeal arches. This is first arch. This is the mandibular process of first arch, and this is the maxillary process. This is second arch, third, fourth, and as we know, fifth arch regress, so we have sixth one. Branchial arches consist of an outer covering of surface ectoderm and an inner lining of pharyngeal endoderm. So these arches, they are made up of mesoderm and have an outer covering of surface ectoderm and an inner lining of pharyngeal endoderm. In this model, the development of these pharyngeal clefts and pouches are mentioned. Since we have 5 arches, so in between these arches we have 4 clefts This is first cleft between first and the second arch, second ectodermal cleft, third and fourth. The fifth week embryo is characterized by the presence of 4 pharyngeal clefts, of which only one contributes to the definitive structure of the embryo. Rest, all other clefts disappears because of this proliferation of the mesenchymal tissue in the second arch. This second arch grows, the mesenchyme of the second arch proliferate and it hangs downward and overlap the second, third and fourth cleft. And finally it merges with this epicardial ridge. This is epicardial ridge. The second, third and the fourth cleft lose contact from the outside, and these clefts form a cavity which is lined by ectodermal epithelium and known as cervical sinus. This cervical sinus disappears with further development. If the cervical sinus persists, it will lead to formation of a cyst which is known as branchial cyst. This branchial cyst is situated anywhere beneath the sternocleidomastoid muscle If second pharyngeal arch fails to grow caudally over the third, fourth arches, then these clefts remain in contact with the surface by a narrow canal, and in such condition a fistula found on the lateral aspect of the neck directly interior to sternocleidomastoid muscle and known as branchial fistula. Now we will discuss about pharyngeal pouches. These are the pharyngeal pouches. There are altogether 5 pharyngeal pouches. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. The fifth pouch is rudimentary. The ventral part of each pouch is obliterated by the developing tongue rudiments. So the dorsal part of each pouch, except the first one, divide into ventral and dorsal wing. The fate of each pouch is discussed separately now. Starting with the first pouch. This is the first pouch. The dorsal part of the first pouch extend outward into the adjacent mesenchyme as a tubotympanic recess. The medial portion of this recess is narrow and tubular, and it persists as an auditory tube or eustachian tube, which connects the middle ear cavity with the nasopharynx. The lateral part of this recess is dilated to form primitive tympanic cavity, from which this primitive tympanic cavity later on develops into middle ear cavity. The blind distal end of this tubotympanic recess come in contact with ectodermal cleft, with first ectodermal cleft. From this first ectodermal cleft, external auditory meatus develop, and in between these cleft and pouch, there is a thin layer of mesenchyme. Here, tympanic membrane develops. Tympanic membrane consists of all three: ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. It is tridermal in origin. See in this figure, the cleft, the first cleft and the first pouch, they are in close contact. From the first cleft, here this is first cleft, and from the first cleft external auditory meatus develop, and from the first pouch primitive tympanic cavity and the auditory tube. See, they are in much close here, and this is tympanic membrane. This is primitive tympanic membrane. The cuticular layer of tympanic membrane develop from ectoderm, the fibrous layer from mesoderm, and the mucous layer develop from the tubotympanic recess of endoderm. Now, second pouch. The epithelial lining of second pharyngeal pouch proliferates and form bud that penetrate into the surrounding mesenchyme. The buds are secondarily invaded by mesodermal tissue, forming the primordium of palatine tonsil. During the third and the fifth month, the tonsil is infiltrated by the lymphatic tissue, and a part of the pouch remains and is found in adult as a tonsillar fossa. The third pouch has a ventral and a dorsal wing. The dorsal wing of the third pouch is differentiated earlier into the primordium of parathyroid gland, inferior parathyroid gland, and the ventral wing form thymus. Both these gland primordia lose their connection with the pharyngeal wall, and thymus then migrate in a caudal and a medial direction, and it pull the inferior parathyroid gland with it. The parathyroid tissue of the third pouch finally come to rest on the dorsal surface of the thyroid gland and forms the inferior parathyroid gland. Now, fourth pouch. From the fourth pouch, Similarly, like the third pouch, it has a dorsal and a ventral wing. From the dorsal wing, this is superior parathyroid gland. And from the ventral region of the fourth pouch give rise to the ultimobranchial body. The cells of the ultimobranchial body give rise to the parafollicular cells or C cells of thyroid gland. These cells secrete calcitonin. So now I am summarizing the derivative of pharyngeal pouches. From the first pharyngeal pouch, primitive tympanic cavity and auditory tube. From the second pharyngeal pouch, palatine tonsil and tonsillar fossa. From the third pharyngeal pouch, inferior parathyroid gland and thymus. From the fourth pharyngeal pouch, superior parathyroid gland and ultimobranchial body. Thank you.